We can bash the Chicago Fire about a lot of things, right? But this is not one we can bash them for.
Chicago, the Chicago Fire, who've been taking L's season after season, and I still can't believe they turned. Remember that bad logo they had? That was the worst logo of all time, and then they went from SC to FC, and woo, that was rough. That was rough. It almost Boss Nation rough, right? But with Chicago Fire, when they sold Jhon Durán to Aston Villa, they had a sell-on fee. So if they would make a sale or they would get any money that for any, whatever, I'm not even saying this right, but there's a sell-on fee. So now he's being sold to Saudi Arabia for reportedly what, $80 million? It looks like the Chicago Fire could get 8.8 million or 8.5 million reportedly. That's 15% sell-on clause. Like, it's crazy. They're finally taking a W. Chicago Fire getting a W, probably for the first time in a long time. And I like that they made that deal with Aston Villa. They sold Jhon Durán for 22 million. And then, I mean, Villa's going to make a ton of money on this as well, but everybody wins here, including Durán, who's probably going to get paid some real cheddar in Saudi Arabia, Big Tones. But what are you thinking about this? What are you thinking about this?
Well,
whole situation? Because you saw Durán. Yeah, you were out there. Durán.
Yeah.
What I said.
He was, so he got bought the first year. He got bought the first year I was there, but couldn't come. He was playing in Colombia. I think it was 1.1 million. He couldn't come because he was too young. He had to wait a year, so he's staying in Colombia. So they loaned him back to his club. He came. They played him as a right winger, and quite honestly, he didn't play well. When he played as a center forward, he stretched things, but you could see he was really raw. They ended up selling him. I thought that they had already won with him. They ended up selling him for a boatload of money. I was in the teens. I can't remember exactly what it was. By the way, they've won quite a bit with regards to selling players. Gaga Slonina, another one for 15 or something million with some add-ons and some sell-ons after that. It started with Przemysław Frankowski, who was playing there, that they sold for 4 million in France. And then he turned into a Polish national team player playing alongside Lewandowski. Like, they've been selling players. That was good. These sell-on clauses, I was talking to our producer Des a little bit earlier about this. This is a staple in MLS. And I think what we're seeing is guys that are getting sold for sometimes looks like not so much money, but then going to develop is what the hope is. Your hope, you sell these players, they go develop. I'm imagining there's another sell-on fee for Ricardo Pepi, although this is his second move, right? He went to Germany first, so whatever they sold him there for, they probably got something for him. His next move after the second move, you're not getting anything unless you got a really airtight contract that you negotiated with somebody, but. This is a massive. This is a massive one. Getting sold for the amount of money. I heard the last report when we left today. There was a report that it was up. The next offer was up to 90 million for Jhon Durán, and I can't believe it because I'm happy for him. He's still a young kid, still raw in a lot of ways, but he's going there to get paid. And I tell you all the time, we have this discussion all the time. I'd never begrudge anybody to make a move for a boatload of money, wherever it is. I don't care how old you are, because everyone who says, "Oh, I can't believe he doesn't want to compete, he doesn't want to do this," we don't live in their shoes, right? We have no idea where they came from, what their lifestyle was, what you would have done. Because I guarantee you, most of the people who say that stuff, you throw this bag of money in front of them like this, Jimmy, and you're looking at whatever it is, $500,000 or $1 million a month or $2 million, whatever it is, like, you're going, right? You're going. So this is great for the Fire.
So Nia says, selling players is business, but is it good for building a top league at this pace? I think being a buying and selling league means you're part of the conversation. I think this is healthy for MLS, if that's how you're phrasing this question. If you're saying it from a Saudi Arabia perspective, them buying younger players is good for them because they're getting these younger players, exciting players, instead of getting them when they're 34, 35 or whatever it may be. So it seems like a win for everything. But I, from an MLS perspective, Tones, and I'm sure, I don't know, I'm put words in your mouth. I'm curious what you think about this. But I think it's good that MLS is just part of the global conversation and is now being looked at as a league that can produce players that are on the verge of being good or can be trusted right away, right? Durán gone to Villa and scored some really big goals and is pushing out England, starting one of England's internationals, Ollie Watkins, and he just played at the lowly Chicago Fire. Chicago Fire taking praise from me right now.
Well, yeah. I being are we a selling league or are we a buying and selling league? First of all, and when you talk about selling leagues, isn't pretty much every league in the world a selling league? I mean, there are very few that you can say are not selling leagues. When you start thinking about how many leagues there are in the world, you're absolutely right. We're in the conversation. It also, by the way, let's give credit to the Chicago Fire. They found a player,
Yeah.
right? They developed them to a point where they sold him to a Premier League club who, okay, I know at the time that they bought him, the Saudi Arabian league wasn't really a factor in the market, right? It's happened over the last 3 years since Cristiano Ronaldo went and all that stuff. And then they sell him again. You can call it luck, right? But sometimes you got to be lucky in these moments. Jhon Durán, according to Aston Villa, was on the target list of over 40 clubs. They said this already. So even if it wasn't a Saudi Arabian side, maybe it wasn't going to be 75 or 90 or whatever the hell it ends up being. It would have been 50. It would have been something. So they found a player, developed him to a point to sell him, and then he went on and they structured a contract that said, even when he's out of here for a year and a half or 2 years, or is it 2.5 years now? I can't remember now. I think it's 2.5 years now he's been out of there. We're still going to get paid. And we're not even going to develop them. Like, think about conceptually what a good job they did. We can bash the Chicago Fire about a lot of things, right? But this is not one we can bash them for.
No, I know.
Right?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that Jhon Duran, not even a regular starter in Europe. I mean, it's still like they're paying for potential. And he clearly has a knack for scoring good goals and being clutch, right? And having that feel for being clutch. But yeah, good business by Chicago Fire. Long may that continue. We'll see if Greg Berhalter can turn around that club this upcoming season in MLS. All right, so speaking of MLS, are there any other under the radar players out there that you think can have a Jhon Duran type trajectory where maybe it's not Premier League, we can get sold to another club and that there could be a big sell-on clause down the line? I have one name. If you want me to go first, I can, but I
have one, but it's going to sound like recency bias, but go ahead.
Well, maybe mine's the same. I'm going to go with Gabriel Peck from the LA Galaxy. Now, they got him from Vasco da Gama for $10 million. That guy comes in, helps them win MLS Cup, 19 goals and 15 assists in 38 games in all competitions. Just been excellent. It took him a little while to find his feet and obviously get settled into how Greg Vandy wanted to play. He's 23 years old. I could see him making a move. Right now on that website Transfer Market, though they bought him for 10, he's currently valued at 12. I could see them getting maybe 15 to 18, potentially 20 if he starts MLS in the same vein that he finished it in the previous season. So he was the one that kind of jumped out at me. Maybe he's a little bit too young to be part of this conference, or too old at 23. Maybe the ask is more like who are the 18 or 19-year-olds. I feel like McFarland from NYCFC just went to Man City. He's a younger one. Kevin Sullivan. Those guys have already been signed. I'm talking about players that are already in MLS and maybe are getting interest from overseas, but aren't linked to anybody or are actually signed and being loaned back.
He was the guy I was talking about. He was the guy that we
Peck?
Just covered him in the final.
Yeah, you said Peck then as well.
Yeah. Gabriel Peck. The other one that comes, that's what they say. There's two other that come to mind, and again, I talked to Des today, so I've been thinking about this a little bit. The Luca Orellana, although he's at FC Cincinnati, I think he's 24 years old. And the other one that comes to mind that I keep, when I went to cover games and when you talk to the coaches and people in and around the team, the young kid from LAFC, David Martinez, they really like him. He's a Venezuelan kid. He's a U20 under 22 initiative player. I think he might have a pathway. But you're talking about, I don't, if you're asking me, do I see somebody that is going to be a $90 million player 3 years after they leave MLS? The answer is no, right?
No,
I know this is an extreme circumstance. And
we wouldn't have said that about Duran when he was here either, though.
Right,
yes,
right. But
8 or 10 goals, 23 appearances, but like you wouldn't have been like, that guy's going to be sold for $90 million in 3 years. It's impossible.
Right. There's a couple of young players. The American kid that I think And what I was thinking was guys that have a progression over the next couple of years where they get sold to maybe, I don't know, if it's not the Premier League, it's, Spain, or you get sold in, which, by the way, we need to break into the Spanish market with American players a little bit more, in my opinion. Serie A, let's use Serie A because they're starting to like American players. Serie A, then another move after that to a bigger club. That's kind of the path I was, excuse me, thinking about. Is McGlynn in Philly. I think the kid's got upside. Now, that has nothing to do with his time here recently with the national team in January camp. I thought this for a year now. Watch the kid play, and hopefully he comes good in that regard.